And welcome back to Music Free Static. I hope you're having a fabulous day today. And today I'm going to take a look at The Little Mermaid from 2023, I think it was, in another one of my really late movie reviews. That's right, a movie review for a movie you probably have already seen and have no need for another review of. But here it is, because I finally got around to seeing it, because that's how these things work. Yeah, so again, this is going to be full spoilers for those of you who have not seen The Little Mermaid. Well, okay, you have a chance to go watch it and come back, But let me give you a little background and sort of my history with The Little Mermaid, okay? I am one of those kids who grew up watching The Little Mermaid, okay? Yes, I am that old. I remember seeing Little Mermaid in the theaters, as part of that whole Disney Renaissance, when it was, you had The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, and The Lion King, right? They had this stretch of 4 movies that were just amazing. And The Little Mermaid, I think, was the one that kicked it off. And it was great. I watched this movie so many times did I watch The Little Mermaid. And I loved it. I loved the music. I loved everything about the story. And 12-year-old me was totally falling for Ariel. So, it's a thing. But the remake is different. Unsurprisingly, it's quite a bit longer. For example, it's like, is it half an hour, 40 minutes longer? It's a long movie compared to the animated version. And there are a number of differences. Before I get into that, just let you know that I really did like The Little Mermaid. I've not been impressed with most of Disney's live-action remakes, okay? Cinderella was great because they didn't try to redo the animated Cinderella. They just told the Cinderella story, and they did a fabulous job on it. Aladdin was okay. There are parts of it I really liked, parts of it I didn't like nearly as much as the animated version, but it was still pretty fun. The Little Mermaid kind of falls into that same boat, or maybe falls in maybe halfway in between. They did retell Disney's The Little Mermaid, okay? They didn't retell Hans Christian Andersen's story of The Little Mermaid. They retold Disney's The Little Mermaid, okay? And that's fine. I mean, it's Disney redoing their own stuff. And they did a pretty good job. I really liked the Little Mermaid. I liked the movie. I have some complaints. I'm going to talk about them. But these are things that mostly just didn't work for me, as opposed to things that are necessarily bad or make the movie bad. Okay? So we'll get into that, and then I'll talk about a lot of the stuff I did like. Okay, and I'll probably talk about that as I go through, but there's some good stuff here. So again, The Little Mermaid was done very well. A lot of the underwater stuff was beautiful. But there's a problem, at least the problem I have with a lot of the underwater scenes, is it makes all of the actors look really, really fake. Okay. I especially noticed it on Halle Bailey's Ariel. Okay. I mean, she is a beautiful young woman. Her voice is amazing. And whatever they were doing when she was in the water made her look completely fake. Okay. Now, I don't know if it's because they were trying to CG her as a mermaid moving in the water. I don't know whether it's just trying to get the effect of looking through water at the actors. I don't know. I don't know if it was the body glitter they had to help make Ariel look less human, more fishy. I don't know, something that took the scales and kind of took the color of her scales and spread it up to the rest of her body. I don't know what it was, But I think I'm pronouncing this right. Halle Bailey just looked fake, and that was, I said, I think that's just a design decision. Okay, it just didn't work for me. When she's out of the water, it's amazing, right? She looks fabulous, and she doesn't she doesn't look fake even when she's mermaid and she's out of water. So I really feel like something they were doing with the water effects did not work for me. Okay, other people's may have liked it. Y'all, I will never tell you that what you like and don't like is wrong. Okay, it didn't work for me. On the other hand, all of the animals, which of course they had to CG in, looked amazing. Okay, they looked fabulous. The fish, the squid, the the octopus, yeah, the sprat who know where it's at, right? And the blowfish, they all look great. But I saw them looking like cartoons back in the day, and I don't know how close that blowfish is to being a real looking blowfish. Whatever flounder is, I don't know how close he is to looking like that real fish. But as my mind says, animated fish, and they looked like animated fish, and they looked like really good animated fish. So all of that was amazing. But they made a weird choice, and I'm not entirely sure. I actually, no, I don't. I know that I don't know where they were going with this. In the animated movie, it opens with shots of mermaids swimming through the ocean, and they come over a hill or through a cave or something. I forgot exactly the details. And you look and you see the city, Triton's city. You see his palace. You see all of that magnificence of, here is where the merfolk live, right? This is the heart of Triton's kingdom. And the 2023 edition, the live action version, you never saw any of that. In fact, you hardly saw any mermaids aside from Triton, Ariel, her sisters, and a couple of guards, at least until the very end of the movie when they all show up to celebrate the wedding. And I don't quite understand why they made that choice. Maybe they just wanted to show that the mermaids, the mer people, I guess, all live just that close to nature and that they don't actually build anything. It's not like they're protecting themselves from rain, right? So I don't know. But it was a weird choice, and it made Triton and his undersea kingdom seem very small. It really seemed like the merfolk were really just maybe a dozen people. And that just was, it felt small. But I will accept that maybe they made a choice there for a particular reason, and I don't know what it is, but that's kind of where they went with it. And there are a couple of other things, right? I wasn't particularly thrilled with the new Sebastian. He looks fine, right? I mean, he looks. He actually, they got a lot of expression out of that crab model, which was, it's one of the things that was missing from the Lion King, right? The Lion King was very hard for them to get the lion models to emote properly. Okay. Because cats don't have that much, I don't know, flexibility in their face to be that emotive. Well, I don't think crabs necessarily do too, but they were able to do some really good things with Sebastian. So you could see what his emotions were without having to hear his voice or hearing him say things. Okay. Now, I have to admit, I am a little bit partial to the original Sebastian. Nothing against David Diggs for his portrayal. He did a great job. His acting was great. Yeah, he sang well, right? Part of me is just I kind of prefer what I grew up with, right? And that's not that's nothing against him. He just didn't. There wasn't enough to win me over into. Yes, I want to listen to the 2023 version of Under the Sea versus the 1980s whatever version of Under the Sea. Okay. So there's that. Scuttle was just a disaster. Okay. I mean, the bird itself looked great. She looked fine. I mean, I don't know what bird they were specifically going for, but she looked like a bird. Okay, cool. Akwafina's whatever they were doing with her as this bird just did not work for me. You know, and part of it, I think, just Akwafina has this personality. Just in at least all the portrayals I've seen, they wanted that for Scuttle. Did not work for me. It was just annoying. Okay, just really annoying, and I think in part they were trying to go for it. I mean, the Scuttle from the animated version was also annoying. Okay, Hackett's portrayal of Scuttle. So yeah, he's dumb and stupid and annoying, but mostly just dumb and stupid. But he cares, and he. But Akwafina, I never really felt any. I just wanted her to shut up more often than not, and that's never a good look for a character. But at least with Scuttle, you kind of got a feeling of what her emotions were most of the time. Okay, the same cannot be said for Triton. Okay, now Javier Bardem, who played Triton, is a good actor, right? He's been around a long time. He's done a lot of good work. But it didn't work for me in The Little Mermaid. He was very, very flat. And I don't know if part of it, I never really felt that Triton was more than a puppet. Okay? He was just sort of there. He's delivering lines. Sometimes he raises his voice and sometimes he lowers his voice. But it just seemed really flat. Again, maybe it's just me. Okay? I freely admit I'm not an actor. I kind of pretend to be one occasionally when I do improv, but I am not an actor. I have not been one ever. Okay? But as a viewer, I said his portrayal just seemed flat. Now, and I can't help but compare it to the 80s animated Little Mermaid, where Triton was. You really felt what Triton was feeling. Okay? Whether he was angry with Ariel or concerned, or when he talks to Sebastian about Ariel being in love, and he's sort of a little bit joking, a little bit teasing, and you could just hear it in his voice. He's just happy about things, and I never got that out of Javier Bardem's Triton. He just didn't quite work. And again, it could be that a lot of his nuance was covered up by the water effects, because again, made all of the actors underwater look a little bit fake. But I really feel like he didn't have as much animation in his voice. And I'm using that term sort of in a double meaning, but I said he didn't feel animated. Didn't feel like he had a lot of energy. It felt like he showed up a couple of days, they put him in the makeup, and that was it. So there was something, and all of these things are basically nitpicks. Okay. they don't really take away from the movie at all. Especially because you don't see Triton often. You don't see Scuttle often. You see Ariel a lot. And Bailey did an amazing job as Ariel. Okay? She was really good. I loved hearing her sing. I wish I could have heard her speak more. But hey, that's part of the story, right? She loses her voice. And I have some questions about that, which I'll get to in a minute. She did great. Eric was fun. Was it Jonah Hauer King? I think his name is, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. He did wonderful. He was a great Eric. They did a pretty good job with him. I have a little bit of a question of why. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just seeing things that aren't necessarily there. But why do we keep seeing adopted kids of kings and queens who are different and trying to make things different? It's had nothing to do with the story. It worked great in the story, but it's just like, why? What's going on? It just feels like this is a trend, and I'm not entirely sure I understand why or where it's coming from. But I guess they needed an excuse for Eric to be white while the queen was black, which is fine, I suppose. Now, the last character I want to talk about is Ursula. Most movies can really be, or at least movies like this, are often made or broken by their villain. You have an amazing villain, and the movie can be amazing. You look at Loki through the early Marvel movies, Darth Vader in Star Wars, right? You get a villain that is just has this presence, and you can feel that yes, they are a villain, or sometimes they are the villain, but man, you really side with them, right? You get some of that with Killmonger from Black Panther. You get some of that with Balin's Skull in the Ahsoka series, right? Those are the villains you really can latch onto. It's like, oh, this is great. I want to see them lose, but I really get what they're putting down. Ursula as a character, I have never liked. Okay, doesn't matter if it was the animated Little Mermaid, the live action Little Mermaid, doesn't matter. I have never liked Ursula. Now, part of this is my own personal baggage, okay? Ursula reminds me very much of my stepmother. I did not like my stepmother. And so I freely admit there is some personal baggage there that probably is coloring things for me a little bit. I will say, though, Melissa McCarthy's Ursula was really good. But, man, the character likes to monologue. And now there's a lot of that in the animated as well. But it really felt like anytime Ursula was on screen, except for like the end battle or when Ariel shows up, Ursula is just going to become the sea witch of exposition. Okay, that's just her job. You don't get to see what any of her motivations are through her actions. She just gets to sit and tell you about them. And this was a problem in the original as well, don't get me wrong. And she's sitting in a cave by herself, so who is she going to talk to? So it just felt more, right? It's like, if you took the monologue dial and cranked it to 11, you've got Ursula. Now, the one thing I did like about Melissa McCarthy's portrayal of Ursula here in The Little Mermaid was she seemed to have a little more subtlety. Okay? In the animated version, Ursula is loud and bombastic and that's pretty much what she is. And she's slimy and yeah, a jerk and all that stuff. And McCarthy's Ursula is all of those things too, to some extent. But there's a lot of what McCarthy drops on Ariel that shows her at least trying to scam Ariel through kindness, right? Because she's taking advantage of Ariel. 100%. Ariel is not doing well with her father and her family. She has this desire to see and explore the human world. Even before she meets hunky Eric up there on the ship, right? But you know, she's having these issues, and in both stories, Ursula mercilessly takes advantage of them to use Ariel for her own ends. Okay. But in the animated one, she comes off just evil and dirty and slimy the whole time. Which she is, and for a movie about for kids, maybe that lack of subtlety helps. In the live-action version, Ursula often sounds kind and helpful, right? The song Poor Unfortunate Souls is Ursula trying to convince Ariel that she's just there to help. And in the animated version, she never feels like she's just there to help. She feels like she's there to scam Ariel. But Ariel buys into it. In the live-action version, it starts at least with Ursula really sounding like she is wanting to help. She's misunderstanding. She's changed. You feel some of that subtlety, some of that she's really trying to scam Ariel with, but you buy into it a little bit more. At least I bought into that a little bit more as part of the character. Again, we know she's faking the whole time, but her portrayal feels more subtle. Okay? You can see how she's really trying to pull Ariel in. Okay? So while I don't like Ursula as a character, I never have, I still don't, I like McCarthy's version of Ursula better than what we saw in the animated version. Okay? So I think there were some choices that it really feels like, I don't know quite what the difference is, and this is probably my lack of theater and movie making training or something. But in the animated Little Mermaid, it always feels like we drop in on Ursula mid-rant almost. Either we cut back to her from spying on Ariel, or she's always in the middle of something, and her monologuing is just part of what's been going on. In the 2023 live action, what we get is we're going to cut to Ursula, and she is going to go full Shakespearean monologue on us. And then we cut away and we go to, it's like, this is the only reason we're cutting to Ursula. She has just been waiting for the record light to turn on so she could drop her monologue. Keep waiting for her to say like and subscribe and buy my merch. Okay, it really is. It's like, here is Ursula's podcast, and we're going to, it's just, I don't know. There's some weird choices there, and that's going to fall on the direction. So but all that said, I liked Ursula better than I liked her in the animated one. I just don't like Ursula. That's just straight up. But all of that said, right, I said I've got all of these things that just didn't work for me. I didn't like all that. I really liked The Little Mermaid. Okay, this was a really good telling of Disney's The Little Mermaid. Okay. There were a couple of new songs, which I enjoyed. I especially liked Eric's song, Uncharted Waters, I think it's called. I really liked that one. As a way of showing Eric and his personality and what he's looking for out of life, right? This is his I Want song, right? Ariel's is part of your world. This is Eric's. And you see more of what Eric has been trying to do for his kingdom and for himself, especially once he finds and then loses Ariel. When she rescues him and now he's trying to find her. This is what he's looking for. And it's a good song. And Ariel's song, as she's on land, she's been rescued and she's being driven through town and she's seeing all of the things that she had never seen before, or she'd only read about, or she'd seen the artifacts. Right? That was fun. That really helped show her feelings. And this is what a musical does, right? A musical uses music and song to help really express the character's emotions, right? It's the idea that their emotions are so strong, the only way they can get them out is through song, okay? That's the only way they can express it. Now, she's not really singing because at this point she has no voice. This is the music in her head. And it was fun. And then you see her again as she and Eric are on their outing and exploring and seeing the different parts of the island culture. And she's, flowers and, the dingle hopper is not actually used for hair. And, right, all of these types of things. It's really cool. And along those lines, I really liked what they did with Eric's Island Kingdom. Okay. In the animated one, you don't really know much about Eric's kingdom. It's a kingdom. His city is on the sea. And it's sort of a vaguely European fantasy kingdom. Okay. For this one, they translated it into basically a pseudo Jamaica, if you want to put it that way. They do show a map of the islands. I didn't get a close enough look to see if it actually matched anything in the real world. They do reference places like Brazil. It is, and I think they talk about Europe. This is Earth as we understand it. A fantasy Earth, but still Earth nonetheless. And the translation of whatever islands that this kingdom is to being a Caribbean, island kingdom worked. I liked that. It was a nice change. Now, I could go on a rant, and I really don't need to, but you get a lot of rants about sort of, I'm going to use the term whitewashing. I hate the term, but you get it. Sort of putting a European slant on other cultural stories. Okay. But the Little Mermaid was written by Hans Christian Andersen, who was European. Okay. And you could argue that making the change to Jamaica is sort of a cultural washing that wouldn't go over if you did it the other way. But that said, I think it really worked for having a culture that was bright and different. Okay. And I think it worked out really well. I said I liked the change. It was it gave vibrancy to the above world that was lacking underwater. Okay. It gave actually, you want to think about it this way. It's like the Wizard of Oz, right? Dorothy's world in Kansas is very boring. Okay. It's all sepia tones. It's black and white. This is just dull. And she steps into Oz, and it's bright and colorful and vibrant and amazing. You get that same feel coming from the ocean and Ariel's life underwater to the above, right? The world above, the world of the humans. And it's bright and vibrant and colorful. And pulling from Caribbean island culture really helps with that bright vibrancy. So I like the change. I think it really worked for the story and for the movie and all of that stuff. Now, I talked a little bit about some of the new songs. I need to talk about some of the old songs. Now, again, I grew up with this music. Okay, I grew up listening to Under the Sea and Kiss the Girl and Les Poissons, which they cut that whole bit right out of the new version. Sebastian is not running from a crazed French chef, right? Sorry, Louis, you're not in the movie anymore. It happens. Under the Sea was fine. It did nothing to make me want to listen to it rather than the original. The only thing, Halle Bailey's parts in that they added Ariel singing along was great, but the song itself, yeah, it was there. I really did not like what they did to Kiss the Girl. And part of it is they had, I'm fairly certain they had Daveed Diggs actually singing. I didn't go look. If he's not, then feel free to change proper nouns as appropriate. But I think they had him. They had, who was it that was playing Flounder? Jacob Tremblay and Akwafina singing. And man, that combination of voices did not work for me. Did not work at all. I'm sorry. It just didn't. And from the original, you get the golden tones, right? Sebastian is singing, and it's amazing, and it's wonderful, and it's smooth, and you love it. And it did not feel good in this version. Part of it is they changed some of the chord progressions. They changed some of the melody. And I think it changed the tone of the song. And I don't think it was for the better. I don't think so. I think this is one of those ones that they tried to update it. And some of the lyric changes, okay, that's fine. They jolt me out because I know the original lyrics. And, it's when somebody sings the wrong words to a song you've known and sung your whole life, and it just is wrong. Right? So there's some of that disconnect. And they weren't bad. It was fine. They sort of emphasize consent. Okay, that's cool. Because consent is awesome. But it's not the words that threw me off. It was the actual music. And it hurt. It really did. It lost some of the emotional depth, I think, that the original had. And, I'm sorry, whoever was Lin-Manuel Miranda or whoever else was working on the songs, you tinkered with it a little bit too much, right? And it's just not good anymore. It's okay. It's just not good. It's like my breakfast this morning. I know, weird transition. I do a breakfast skillet. Well, my stove wasn't working, so I did a crock pot variant. But I didn't take into account the fact that my crock pot was a little smaller than my pan. So instead of having a mix of sweet potatoes and regular potatoes, I just did sweet potatoes. Because I did that first and realized, oh, this is all that's going to fit in my crock pot. Well, that's fine. I'll throw the rest of the stuff in and we'll go with it. Unfortunately, it isn't very good. It's edible. It's fine. I'm not going to throw it out. But it just isn't nearly as good. And that's kind of how I feel with the 2023 version of Kiss the Girl. The rest of the music is fine. The little changes they made to Under the Sea, yeah, okay, whatever. The new stuff was great, but they butchered that song so much, and it was, in a lot of ways, that song was sort of the heart of Ariel and Eric's attempted romance. Okay. On the other hand, part of Your World was amazing. Of course, Bailey's got an amazing voice, and she rocks it in part of Your World. So yeah, that's good. Unlike the live action Beauty and the Beast, which I probably should watch one of these days. I've heard all of the songs. None of the songs work for me, right? They lose all of the magic from the animated version. This one doesn't have that same problem, except for Kiss the Girl and maybe a little bit of Under the Sea, but definitely that one. So, or Aladdin, most of the songs are really good, but they don't quite. There's a significant difference, and it is really, Aladdin, it's a matter of taste. Do you prefer Will Smith or Robin Williams singing certain songs? And I'm down with that. There are some days I want to listen to Will Smith sing Arabian Nights, which was really good, or Friend Like Me, which was okay, right? But man, yeah. And again, this is my personal taste. If you like them, great. Again, I will never take your likes and dislikes away from you, right? What you like is yours, and embrace it. So, and speaking of embracing things I liked The Little Mermaid. I've watched it twice this weekend. I will probably watch it more, maybe not this weekend, but I'll watch it again. Okay, because it was good. It was a really good story, really good telling of Disney's The Little Mermaid. I highly recommend you see it. It's on Disney Plus now. And I hope you enjoy it. If you haven't seen it yet, I hope you enjoy it. And if you have seen it, again, I hope you liked it. Let me know what you think. Because I'm always curious. What did you like? I had a great conversation with my daughter this weekend about it. And it was good. So thank you all for watching. And I know it went a little bit longer today, but I had a lot to talk about. It was really good. I liked it. So until next time, be excellent to each other. And this is Music Free Static signing off.